Quickly making himself known in the record books, Ryan Wash not only claims his first GT-AM championship at Long Beach, but he edges closer to the top 15 winningest drivers in the series. And while that fight may be over, the prototypes and GT Pros remain as open as ever. Will the mountains smile upon one of the drivers and crown them? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 13 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth today is Cy Andra and DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Mount Panorama Circuit does not lack challenge amongst its walls. Let's head to our track guide to find out why. Welcome to Mount Panorama Circuit. Most drivers simply refer to this place as Bathurst, with it being located just to the southwest of the city's major hub. But most ominously, and perhaps appropriately, it's been nicknamed the Mountain. With more than 500 feet of elevation change over the course of a lap, it's easy to understand why. Though originally built for racing, it's become a street circuit over time, with the track itself used for regular traffic and featuring residential housing all along the roads. This makes this 4-mile, 23-turn course incredibly unique in the world of racing. In the past, the track has hosted a variety of types of cars, including open-wheelers. But modern safety standards means that most competitive racing has now been limited to sports cars and touring cars. However, the dangers are very real due to the incredibly high speeds and lack of runoff throughout much of the circuit. The quickest parts are the run up the mountain straight towards Griffin's Bend, and then the flat-out blast back down the Conrad Straight and into the chase. This chicane was added in the late 80s to break up the run down to Murray's Corner. But while most chicanes are derided for ruining the character of a track, the terrifying speed as you approach it and the general difficulty make it fit right in with Bathurst challenges. However, the toughest portions are undoubtedly along the mountain itself, with notorious corners like the Cutting, Brock's Skyline, the Dipper, and Forest's Elbow. In fact, one of the more unique worries of this course is that all of these parts are so narrow that track blockages due to wrecks are not uncommon in the first few laps. The Australian fans often line the fences and hillsides to witness the daredevil spectacle of drivers trying to claim King of the Mountain. You can't blame them with how rare of a sight a track like Bathurst is today. Well, DJ, when you get tracks that have one-word nicknames, in this case simply the Mountain, you know it is something epic.
Oh, that is for sure, Joe. And the track here tonight, well, it's a bit of a tale of two circuits. You have the first and third sectors, which are pretty much flat-out runs. Drafting and that slingshot is going to be absolutely key. Look for some good passing going down into the second corner of Griffin's, as well as after the long run on the Conrad Straight down into the chase. We do occasionally see a little bit of passing on that short little front straightaway between Murray's and Hell Corner, but that's a little less common. But what everybody knows Mount Panorama for is that mountain that you mentioned. It is the run all the way up the hill with the walls right up next to you. It is all about precision and technical driving up through there. There's no real good opportunity to pass, and it's all about just keeping the car on the black stuff. Now, that's going to get very, very interesting once these super fast LMP2s get their way around and start to catch traffic up in that area. Look for some very, very serious bottlenecks to develop with traffic, as well as in the first couple of laps when all these cars are bunched together. It's not uncommon to see a couple of run-ins where the track can potentially get blocked.
And speaking of those prototypes, if we look at the championship, this is perhaps the farthest apart that hasn't been decided yet. Williams ahead of Jason DeVries by 15 points. They are the only two that are mathematically eligible anymore. Joshua Wolf has been eliminated. He still sits in third, with Carter Kundinger having closed in a number of markers in the last couple rounds with 2 podiums. Luke Carbonneau just behind them as well, means that the bottom step on the podium is absolutely able to be changed by the time we finish Road Atlanta. Cy, I believe you have the update on the GT Pros.
That's correct. We are separated by a single point between the top two drivers at the moment. Ross Booth leading with 186 and Kevin Binkley very, very close behind with 185. Unfortunately, Christopher Pye is not mathematically eligible for the championship anymore with only 40-something points remaining. But the battle for the last three spots on the podium is the last three of the 5 spots in the top 5 are still very, very tightly contested between Marc-Antoine Thibault, Stefan Jeffrey, and Young Park. DJ, what does the GTMs look like?
Well, in that GTMs you saw last week, Ryan Wash was able to clinch the championship in those GTM standings. Behind him, Joey Atterbury, a bit in a class of his own. He is pretty much locked onto that second place, but a little bit of a battle shaping up behind him between Robertson and Santana. Now, remember, Santana has not been running these GTMs, but he is back in them tonight, so let's keep an eye on him. Luke Schmidt also only a couple points back there. About 16 back from Santana, so that 3rd through 5th, very, very much still to play for.
And it is not separated by much in the teams championship either. That could swing any which way between VRS Satellite Racing and DMG United, only 8 points between them. From there on down, Autobahn East has kind of found themselves in no man's land, well away from Lap Rats Racing, who are fighting a rear guard essentially to Autobahn North with Smith Park, Rhodes, and Perry trying their best to catch up with them. And in the meantime, DJ, you've also got our race details for this round.
I do indeed, Joe. We are in the penultimate round, and it is an endurance series for these Autobahn drivers. So a 90-minute race out here that'll throw some wrenches into strategy and traffic for sure. In those 3 categories, like we talked about, the prototype category, well, those are the Dallara LMP2 chassis. The GT Pro, that's the GTEs. And in that, you can have a nice little selection of that BMW M8, the Corvette, or the Porsche 911 RSR. And then in the GTM category, well, that is split between the Lamborghini and the BMW. For the most part, only 2 drivers choosing to drive in that Ferrari 488 here today. The other thing to keep in mind, especially with as nasty as these walls are here at Mount Panorama, there is no faster pair for these drivers. So you bin it, you're out.
Right now, qualifying is underway, and David Williams is looking like he's the most likely to get the bonus for pole. He provisionally holds it over Jason DeVries. I found it interesting that each of them are tied on wins right now, 4 apiece here late in the season. Oftentimes when I have to consider what the championship situation looks like, I need to look at who would win on the tie, and well, they could actually wind up tied on wins if they trade them, and it could come down to bonus points even between the pair of them. So we'll see. But right now, Jason DeVries has some work to do to try and peel away a few of those from David Williams. Billy Smith not doing too bad today, sitting in that 3rd position. We're watching Williams work his way over the hill right now. He's gotten 2 laps in, and with about 5 minutes left to go and nearly a 2-minute lap around here, he's not got too many more times around.
These prototypes are definitely going to be compromised around this track, especially with how bumpy and how much compression you have in the downhill section of the track. These prototypes are going to be raised sky high relative to what they're used to. Most of the time you'll see them scraping the bodywork down the straightaways here, but around here you're going to see them run sky high and kind of compromise the aero balance. So you'll see a lot of people running a little bit slow in the corner, a little bit unstable. But because of that, but in qualifying, they could take a couple of risks. And I think you'll see people ruin their runs with some contact here and there.
Now, let's hop on board with Billy Smith as he gets ready to finish his lap. Oh, I guess we're going to... here we go. We've got him now. And DJ, one thing that I've been looking forward to is seeing what these prototypes, these LMP2s look like around here, because this is not a car that traditionally races this track. Let's watch from the driver's perspective.
Well, no, it's not, Joe. So here we go, flying down the mountain straight. This is absolutely flat out the first of those big draft zones. Crest over the hill. Don't worry, there's enough downforce. They're not going to hit too much. Down hard onto the brakes. Get it down into that third gear, right around Griffins, and then you start to climb up the hill, and this is where it all starts coming at you fast and heavy. Tricky double apex there as fast as these LMP2s are through the cutting. Now you come up through Reed Park, get ready to crest over, and then take this long left-hander there to get over the bend. You're starting to work your way now through Solman Park and back up over the hill. Now you start to have a little bit of a breather room before you have to fling it back through McKelney. Now back down the hill. That is right over Skyline, and it's down. This is where it gets terrifying. These corners, left, right, left. Yeah, absolutely flying. Breathe it up and line it up before you get left and try to squeeze into that wall. Down, hard onto the brakes. That's the dipper. You want to get as close to that inside wall as you possibly can. You straighten out again here and have a little bit of a breath before you get down into Forest Elbow and get a good launch out of that fourth gear corner before you fly back now onto the Conrad straight. Absolutely flat out here under the bridge. This is another good drafting zone, but it's a little bit tricky. Then you line it up to the right and then immediately almost get onto the brakes. Hard onto it and down onto the left. Second gear. Watch a little bit of wheel spin as you come out of the corner. Big snap oversteer there for Billy Smith. Line it up again before you go into Murray's corner. Again, this is a potential passing zone down into first gear. Bring it back onto this very, very short front straightaway. And that, folks, is a lap around this fantastic Mount Panorama circuit.
And a personal best for Billy Smith, who gets back into third ahead of Carter Kundinger. Carter's main rival that he's been watching out for and fighting with this season is not here, sadly. I do not see Josh Wolf. So this will most certainly put him ahead of him in the points after today. Luke Carbonneau just brushing the wall. Unfortunately, even if he got away without damage, he's going to be without a timed lap that time. Mark Wilson coming around to start another one himself. We've got about a tenth and a half between Williams and DeVries. That still could switch around if Jason gets a good flyer. Then from there on down, it's about half a second down to Billy Smith, who needs a lot of improvement. Tenzi doing a little better than he has in the past in these prototypes, getting his car into fifth. So just behind him, let's see if Luke Carbonneau has got better speed. He does. It's a 49.7, and it does put him ahead of Tenzi.
I think I see a little bit of draft coming off the back of Leif Peterson's car there, or rather Robert Kansian getting that draft down the straight, and I think that helped him a little bit.
David Williams just got run into by Luke Carbonneau. So that means, well, I think David could still get back in the pits and come back around to start another lap. No, he can't. He does not have the time. Wow. So that took Williams' chance to away to try and fight back against DeVries if he gets a better lap here. And these final flyers, we're on board with Jason right now, coming down into the chase. Oh, he gets right up to that grass at the edge, knowing exactly where the edge of the car is. And he's coming down to Murray's. Is this a quick one? It might be, but it'll be close. Underneath a 49-minute lap is what he's looking for, and that's not going to be at a 49.3. So it looks like Williams not going to be able to start another flyer. Kansian is out. Billy Smith has parked it. What about Bradley Haley just starting another lap? That one wasn't quick for him. So he'll get another go as Mark Wilson follows him. 50.4, not his fastest. Leif Peterson as well flying down the straight in that number 39. Looking to improve on his 50.4. So drivers who have crossed the line are able to complete this as their final flyer. It looks like Peterson will not get there in time. Out of Murray's corner. Let's see if he can go quicker. No, does not count. Must have had a brush somewhere. Carter Kundinger is going to be next. The 0-2 heading towards the timing line. Looking for better than the 49.5, and a 49.3 will do it. That puts him ahead of Smith on the inside of row 2. Back to Jason DeVries once again. Wasn't able to go quicker last time. He has 0.169 of a second to try and overtake Williams, deny him that bonus point, and make it that little bit harder for Williams to shake him in the championship and clinch today. Jason's down and through, a little bit off the apex on that final turn. Maybe just giving that curb a wide berth, and it's a 48.9. Oh, he was 900ths away from Williams in the end.
To be honest, Joe, I didn't expect the qualifying times to be this close around Bathurst, considering how much of a weird track it is for most of these guys in the prototypes. Certainly, the setups required means that you can't really reuse any of the setups you had from previous tracks, so it's built from scratch for a lot of these guys.
Robert Tinsley's going to be the last one through as he crosses. It is a 49.6, a 10th faster. That'll put him ahead of Carbonneau, back into 5th place. All right. That ends our qualifying. We'll let the rest of the session finish up here as everybody who can set a time has put one in. Carter's just out there getting whatever practice he can get for the remainder of this evening. But the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge coming to an end for this season. Not completely. This is the penultimate round. This could be critical, and the 3 fights remaining with only the GT Pros, the Prototypes, and the Teams Championship that is eligible to change at this point, with our champion of the GT AMs crowned, Ryan Wash, getting another pole, by the way, on that one that we didn't get to see since they ran before we came live. So he's going to put his stamp on this even more before all is said and done. Paul Darling also doing pretty well over there, having taken a couple wins now that he's hopped over to the GT Pro class himself after doing pretty decently up in the Prototype Championship, looking to help his team in the points, filling some of those gaps there. Looks like our seconds are just about over, so as the session switches into gridding up, it's time to read through our grid today. It'll be David Williams, who is on the pole, with Jason DeVries starting in 2nd today. Carter Kundinger in P3 with Billy Smith in 4th. Robert Tinsley starts P5 and Luke Carbonneau in 6th place. Inside of the next row has Bradley Haley in 7th and Leif Peterson in 8th. Behind them, Mark Wilson in 9th, and rounding out our 10 prototype field, Robert Canchin on that last slide. Cy, what about the GT Pros?
Well, on pole for the GT Pros, we have Paul Darling, followed by Kevin Binkley. Ross Booth in 3rd, our 2 championship contenders in 2nd and 3rd there. That's a battle to look out for. In 4th is Mo Islam, 5th, Young Park, and in 6th is Paul Slavonic. In 7th is Oliver Turcotte, 8th, Christopher Pies, 9th, Paul Lindsay, Dominic Durnenberg, and rounding out our GT Pros is Gary Mueller. DJ, what about the GTMs?
Well, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, Ryan Wash is going to be starting off in the pole of those GT Pros, followed by Joey Atterbury to his outside. Kevin Santana, returning to his roots in the GTMs, is going to be in 3rd, followed by Ryan Robertson with Eric Godot-Japot in 5th and David Perry in 6th. In the row behind them, it'll be Sean Reese and Luke Smith, with Mark Kodrowski and Dale Green rounding out your top 10, Joe Steifel and Chris Sherburne, the last 2.
Do have a couple onboards here today. And let's see, I don't think we have Carbonneau in here yet, but I do think that we've got Ryan Wash out there already. So let's look at our newly crowned champion in that GT AM field. Ooh, that's creepy. Digging those little light eyes that he's got on his VR set. And I think we've got Carbonneau out there now, so let's see what the 492 has hanging on his wall this evening. Tends to put up some hockey jerseys. The Canadian certainly representing. There he is now. Luke looks like he hasn't switched him up quite yet, so maybe we'll see if he's got something else to show for next time he joins us here on the onboards, but should give us some fun starting within the top 6 here today. Also, good conditions out on the track with only 74 Fahrenheit. Drivers shouldn't have to worry about overheating those tires too badly which is one less thing to worry about on the mountain. The track itself is certainly enough to keep them focused, laser focused here today for the penultimate round. Porsche pace car already in, and David Williams waiting for the green flag as they come around Murray's corner. The 01 is on it. Green flag is out. And Jason DeVries immediately slips into second behind him. A little bit of a challenge. Kundinger having to fend off Billy Smith. Oh, almost a spin from Robert Tinsey. He catches the car. Looks like so far so good. Let's head to the GT Pros.
Well, back here, it looks like Paul Darling has gotten a good jump. Kevin Binkley sleeping on the start there a little bit, allows Ross Booth up the inside into Hell Corner. And behind them, we have Young Park and Mo Islam duking it out down the straight, and now this is where the draft will kick in. Who is going to get the draft for the lead there? Kevin Binkley and Ross Booth side by side, the leaders for the GT Pro Championship coming into Griffin's Bend.
And in that GTM class, Ryan Wash had a good start. Joey Atterbury sliding right in behind him. Santana and Robertson, everybody just filing into line, waiting for that big draft to take effect here. Wash, the only Ferrari out front, as we've got to move in the back there. That looks like Santana trying to have a look on Atterbury. Atterbury able to cover it off, thinks better of it as they dive into Griffins.
So they stay in position. Williams and DeVries stay as they are, but DeVries was right alongside him into Griffin's Bend. They're already reaching Forest Elbow. They're running at such a fast pace around this track, but he's lost touch a little bit. You heard DJ talking about the slipstream, Cy, and I don't think Jason's really going to feel it too much from this far back.
No, but the other thing we didn't talk about was the aero wash, and even though you kind of slow down the back of the mountain here, it is very, very significant, and it will cause you to bounce out wide and into the wall if you're not careful. Oh, as we go side by side through the chase.
Yeah, that's Billy Smith and Robert Tinsey. Bob the Blade is earning that nickname once again, getting himself into fourth. That was a nice move here on lap one. Ooh, a little defense behind them as Carbonell has to try and keep Haley behind. He gets a bad exit as we watch our top two now once again start lap two through Hell Corner.
And looking at this battle here, Kevin Binkley made up absolutely a heap of time on Paul Darling down the straight here, Conrad. And it means that I think Kevin Binkley might be trimmed out a little bit. I think he might be running a little bit less wing than Paul Darling here. It might make his car a little bit looser, but it makes it faster on the straight. And we'll have to see coming down into Griffins again on the second lap, see what he has.
It's Corvette versus Corvette. So it should all come down to setup difference between them here. And I don't think Kevin got quite the run he was hoping for. Still about half a second off, though he is gaining a little bit of time as he starts to feel the effect of that slipstream into the second corner. Okay, we're getting underway, but this is probably going to be the calmest time, believe it or not, during this race as we wait for those prototypes to begin to catch the tail of the GT3 field.
If you've never done multi-class around here at Bathurst, it is certainly an event, especially when you catch people coming around the top of the mountain here, right where the GT Pros are.
Yeah, and we've seen them do this times before with the HPDs. I don't think we've yet seen them do it with the LMP2s. So, Cy, this is actually, I want to say, the first time they've taken this combination of cars to Bathurst.
That's correct, I believe so. This is, well, even if we compare to the HPD, I think the P2s just drive a little bit differently, and I don't think the class interaction will be the same with the P2s making most of their time on the straights. They're going to be competing in the corners for the GTLMs more than the HPDs as we have a battle in the P2s.
Yeah, and Carbonell has really had to work hard to fend off Haley. Peterson is going to try and take advantage of it. We're watching from the gearbox of Luke. As you can see, Haley trying to weave down and stay in the slipstream. He's going to be under attack. We can't quite see him yet from this angle. There's a little bit of a peak, and it looks like Peterson not willing to risk it. There's the onboard camera, seeing exactly how the Canadian is doing inside his room as he tries to wheel his way around the famous Australian circuit. Not missing much of anything down in DJ's class right now. things just kind of spreading apart. But I will note, DJ, I don't know if you mentioned it, Atterbury could actually clinch second today, so he's going to be hoping for a good finish.
He could indeed, Joe, and I get the sense that these GT3s out here are playing things a little bit easy at the start of the race. They know that that faster LMP2 field is going to catch up to them, and when they do, all hell is going to break loose. So everybody just kind of holding back a little bit here. Atterbury doing a good job to keep the gas the wash.
Our leader in the GT Pros just smacked the wall. Paul Darling, in a big way, has gotten damage on that left-hand side. What does Binkley have? Not enough guts to try and pass through McPhillamy Park. He's got to wait and check up as Ross Booth is now gaining time, hand over fist, and he's joining the fray. I see Ryan Robertson, for some reason, stopped on the track. We'll have to get to that in a little bit. That was a big moment for Darling, though.
Now, this is where the damage is going to hurt him the most as we go to replay just to see what happens here.
I think you're going to see
up
this.
The hill.
Yeah, this is out of quarry.
Takes a lot of the entry there. Oh, just smacks the car. He just turned in too early. The nose was just too sharp on him there.
And he's lost top end because Binkley has suddenly gained a whole bunch and is starting to attack. Look at the damage on that Corvette. This is not looking good.
Oh, he runs wide on the exit there, coming into the final corner. Both of them are by.
So Binkley into the lead and Ross Booth into second place. Oh my goodness. So what does this do for the championship? Booth already leading by 1 point over Binkley. And of course, Paul Darling is not in the hunt for this fight. So he basically could have been a bit of a spoiler on one of them taking maximum points and now allows both through.
Well, he's not in the fight for the GT Pro Championship, but he's in the fight for the team championship representing DMG United. And the Autobahn car of Ross Booth just slipped by.
Oh, that's a good point. Oh, that's got to be gutting for him. It's way too early for a scheduled stop. He's going to have to just suck this up until he gets to a third of the way into this race, most likely. Or at least close to that. This time looked a little bit more successful for those two, already stretching away from Darling, who's now trying to keep the first non-Corvette behind him, Mo Islam.
And Joe, I can report on Ryan Robertson. He had a self-spin coming up over the cutting, got himself sideways on the track. Everybody was able to avoid, with the exception of Dale Green, who hit him broadside. And that has put Ryan Robertson into the pits here for a very, very long tow. It's a slow speed corner, so I'm not sure how much damage was done, but he did end up on his lid, so we had no choice.
And apologies for jumping us around, but I think we need to go to the leaders and the prototypes because Williams has now caught the back of the GT-AM field. This is the first time they're going to have to navigate them, and already we're seeing some effects. Did you see the dive that De Vries had to make?
That poor Lamborghini.
Go ahead.
Now, that Lamborghini did nothing wrong. He took his line as expected, and Jason just had to dart around him. It's tougher on Bathurst with the narrow track and the walls on every side and the way the track undulates. But those GT cars, they can't do much more than just hold their line, and the prototypes have to find their way around them.
This is Stifle that is allowing De Vries through, but he's lost up to a 1.5 seconds on Williams. I have a feeling that traffic is going to play a huge part in today's race and how it winds up. Who can navigate it successfully? Who's got the luck of the green to hit it at the right time? It's not going well for Jason De Vries this first stab, and they've still got plenty of cars to go.
They certainly do, Joe, but I can say that they're going to be in for a whole world of trouble, but we're going to check up on this GTE battle.
Wow, look at the train that is now backed up behind Darling. He might not have the pace after that damage, but I mean, he's wielding this thing like it's a 20-foot wide tank here. This is incredible that he's managed to keep this many cars from overtaking.
And, you know, part of the problem is I think Mo is being backed up down the hill here by Paul. But then when they get on the straights, Mo has to defend. Mo can't sit in Paul's slipstream down the entire straight. Otherwise, he'll be passed himself by the car of Young Park behind him in the Porsche.
He's already dropped off through the mountain, so he's not going to feel it very much coming down the Conrad straight. Good news is he seems to have separated himself from Young Park. Both Young and Islam took their first podiums in their entire career of Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Mo caught up to Paul Darling this time down into the chase, but he ran out of straightaway. Maybe he can get another bite coming up the mountain straight. And this train involves not only Islam and Park that we mentioned, Slavonic is in there, Turcotte and Pies, all lined up, raring to get by.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe, but David Williams had a moment coming down the hill at the Dipper. He got loose and he let Jason DeVries close the gap down to half a second. Let's take a look at this. Coming across Skyline here, gets checked up by the Lamborghini.
I think he's going to touch the wall.
Absolutely, he just went in there way too hot. Look at that. What a save. He saved it, but that did cost him a lot of time.
And they're side by side right now. DeVries, took a look and then had to back out of it coming through Murray's corner. Almost looked like he lost control a little bit with some wheel spin. Will he have enough coming off of Hell Corner? Williams is struggling. That car does not look like it's handling well. They're going to go 3 wide, and this is a narrow track. DeVries has just enough space and just enough speed that he is going to get to the front. He wants this championship, and he knows he's got to beat David. They're going to come back together, almost making contact with deep braking. Williams tries to sneak back through, but it doesn't work.
That reverse camber on the outside of that corner not helping Williams at all, but we know that Williams was a touch faster at the start of the race. He had about he pulled about a second and a half before they hit traffic. Maybe he can run him back down.
And as that was happening, Islam got by Darling. I'm not sure if it was on the mountain straight or where, but he is now in front of him. So you can see them heading down Conrad into the chase. Park doesn't look in a good position to try and attack him here. Wonder if he's going to get another shot coming out of hell. Of course, we've now seen the BMW versus the Corvette. What is the Porsche versus the Corvette going to look like?
Well, I think this is the ideal spot for Paul to be, actually. I mean, sitting behind a car. I mean, Mo Islam is not slow by any means. So even if Paul is a little bit faster on pace, he can sit here through the mountain section and just use the draft on the straights to stay with them and not lose as much time. I think the win for Paul is out of the question now, unless something really bad happens to Ross and Kevin. But he could still maybe salvage a podium out of this.
Certainly could. We had almost looked like ghost contact between Atterbury and DeVries, but they got away with it. We don't need a replay, but maybe just a small glance. That or Atterbury maybe got surprised as they came through. Hopefully that didn't lose him too much time. Watching this fight for what was third, now looking like it's becoming fourth because Paul Darling's starting to drop off. We're watching from onboard Paul Slavonic just behind. They're going to come over Skyline down into the Dipper. Let's see. Has anybody got an advantage through here? A little puff of smoke as someone locked it up for just the tiniest moment through there. And then down into one of the toughest braking zones on the track. Another big lockup through Forest Elbow. Who's got the launch down Conrad?
If I'm not mistaken, we've got 3 different makes in this group right here: Corvette, BMW, and Porsche. Now, we know that Paul has damage, and those Porsches look mighty fast on the straights, but I think the BMW is the fastest of them all, as Mo Islam is starting to stretch away from the damaged Corvette.
Oh no, we got a spin. It's Turcotte. He's going to stay out of the way. He got checked up as I think it was either Pies or Slavonic in front of him. Let's take another look at it. The SFT car just looked like it could not slow down. And around it goes. So that makes him fall down to 11th, unfortunately. He's got some ground to make up. We're 15 minutes into this race. We do still have all 12 of our GT Pros running right now. Last of them, Jimbo Pfeiffer, a little ways behind Turcotte. Let's go to those prototypes once again, coming through some of the GTEs now.
Interestingly, Carter Kundinger has managed to catch up to the top 2 here. Now, he's not in the running for the championship in P2, but he is catching Joshua Wolf, as you said before. Joshua Wolf is not here, and I'm not fully versed in the drop week situation, but this could mean that if he could score a podium or potentially even in second place here, if something happens to the top 2, he is right there to take advantage and hop up the championship ladder.
So the good news for Josh is he does have both drop weeks full of something. The bad news is they're both not much. He'll get 4 points for today, effectively, even though he didn't show up, because that is in his pocket right now. My goodness, these cars look incredible over this hill as we continue to ride on board.
Look at how close he got through Skyline, though. I mean, with the dirty air coming off of Williams' car, I'm amazed he can stay that close.
He's got it set up for that mechanical grip around here. Oh, there's the separation between them. Can't quite hang through Forest Elbow. They're going to get past Olivier Turcotte now. And did we lose Jimbo Pfeiffer? We did. That must have just happened. Oh, Pfeiffer got hit by Carbonneau. And he's in a close fight with Kundinger in the championship. Now there's the remnants of it. Ooh, oh man, he's already having a hard time. Tinsey having to take a big bobble to get around, and then down out of the dipper. Carbonneau seems to misjudge things. Oh, and some ghost contact on top of it, unfortunately.
And speaking of that contact, Joe, I have some bad news for the fans of the number 19 of Joey Atterbury. Atterbury had some contact coming over the hill on that last lap as he was getting passed by some straggling LMP2s. Caught the wall. He's had to come in for a very, very long pit stop. Still there.
Well, that won't deny him. Oh, and Paul Slavonic has now had an accident. The 528 looks like he might be stuck. Now he's able to get rolling. What caused this, though? Oh, he's side by side with Park. And into the cutting, that's usually not the smartest of ideas, especially this early in the race. They're very lucky this didn't become a track blockage. Ooh. And wow, Dominic Dornenberg just had a big off in front of our leaders on top of things. It is all kicking off now. Action everywhere. Let's take a look at this. I'm not sure what in the world caused this. It actually was that. Oh, it was very close to contact. Dornenberg maybe just caught it out.
And while this was all happening, Bradley Haley is coming to the pits.
And retired.
He's gone. He's retired. I believe. I'm looking at it now. Yeah. He just locked up and hit the wall. Simple as.
Let's take a look at it real quick. Cancian also, was that related, Cy?
No, this was completely all on his own. We need to go a little bit further back. Right here, coming into the double left-hander, he just goes in too hot, locks it up, and gets into the wall hard on the right front. And he's forced to take a tow and decides to call it a day.
Wow. Well, the first part of this race seemed like everybody kind of had things under control, but now the mountain is claiming its victims, and it's gobbling them up left and right. We've been trying to watch this battle for the lead because it's been having to absolutely slalom through the GT cars. De Vries leading Williams. The other thing, Si, is we don't know how much damage is on Williams if he did touch that wall.
You know, I was about to mention that, Joe. I mean, Williams is a fast driver, but he showed pace ahead of Jason De Vries in the early parts of the race. But after that little moment he had coming down the hill, where we kind of saw the left rear of his car clip the wall coming through the dipper, he hasn't been driving the same. He's been kind of losing time and sort of being wish-washy a little bit, as I'd say.
He's still at least within 7/10 of DeVries. He's keeping him honest.
Joey Atterbury has had a big off. I believe Luke Carbonneau connected in that as well. Absolutely massive hit into the wall.
Oh, and this was started by Billy Smith. Oh, no. Carbonneau had to slow, and you're going to see Dornenberg, I think, get the back of Carbonneau in that process, and then he's going to get hit again. So here's the very start of it with Atterbury. Billy Smith really eagerly wants through. He's in a close fight and already unsteady. Atterbury's not really happy about this situation. He gets a tip. He's into the wall hard and slowing up. Carbonneau tries to do the right thing. He gets turned around. And we weren't able to show it, but Carbonneau got hit hard enough by a second car that he has had to, well, he's not, no, he didn't take a tow. He's still out, but I have to imagine he's going to have to come in the pits.
We are only 20 minutes into this race, gentlemen.
We've lost, oh, and Carbonneau is going to lose it for sure. Yeah, there's the tow. Robertson, Cancian, and Haley are officially gone. I see Mueller, Slavonic taking repairs. Atterbury is taking repairs. Jumbo Pfeiffer, Dale Green, Luke Carbonneau. It's becoming a graveyard in the pit lane. Watching the 01 of Williams now.
Well, hopefully now that the track isn't as congested, maybe things will clear up a little bit. But at Bathurst, that's not something you can always rely on.
Ooh, this is going to be a big checkup for DeVries. This is Luke Schmidt. Where is he going to go? Is he going to try and attempt to pass? He's going to try and sneak through. Luke's going to hold to the left side. Great job there by the Lambo. And he's going to allow them past.
That was pretty forceful from Jason, I would say. I mean, he didn't necessarily need to do that, but that was very aggressive from the P2 driver.
So that will keep him away from Williams. I almost disagree a bit, which is I don't often do with you, Sai, but I feel like Jason has got to go for broke today. I mean, he knows he's got to get as many points as he can over Williams, so he can't let David get a sniff of the win.
No, I'd agree with you, Joe, but he's not mathematically out of the championship if he doesn't stay ahead of David today. He is, I believe, only 15 points back. So even if he doesn't win the race today, even if David finishes one position ahead of him, it'll be difficult for the final race, but he's not mathematically out of it.
True.
But
true.
He will be mathematically out of it if he DNFs, which is almost what happened there.
Not a gambler, Sai. I should expect that from an engineer. As we're watching Dornenberg now. As they come out of Murray's corner, this is the battle for the 6th position. Turcotte trying to chase him down after he had his issues. Now Dornenberg having to really slow up a few times to let some of the quicker cars go through. 913 gets a nice launch coming out of Hell Corner, so he'll allow himself some breathing space, and they're also going to be separated by Mark Wilson. We are getting close, I think, to the pit. I think we are within that pit window being open for at least the GT AMs, probably the GT Pros.
That's right, Joe. I expect these GT AMs to probably come in within the next 10 minutes or so if they're able to stretch it. Remember, this is a super, super long circuit, so you don't want to be caught out here on a low tank.
So it looks like Atterbury is very unhappy with Billy Smith right now.
Sorry to cut you off, Joe, but Paul Darling has had another issue in the dipper. He has tagged the wall again, but this time with the right side of the car, and that Corvette is looking even more and more beat up.
Ooh, this was pretty significant too. Now this was definitely driver error. He's following. Here we are on board.
You can see the wheel is off-centered, so that damage from before is definitely affecting. Look at that, the back end gets away from him and backs it into the wall there.
Does he pit? No.
stays out, which is brave. I'll definitely say that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would think he'd want to come in now, get some damage repaired, just to make the car a little bit easier to drive in the remaining moments. It looks like we're going to check on Paul Lindsay just in front of them. They get split by Peterson as he tries to chase Darling. What a miserable day for the 155 so far. How damaged is he after that now? So, ooh, and there was another little touch with the wall. A third one. How many times is he going to be able to get away with that before that car becomes junk?
I mean, if Willpower can get away with slapping an Indy car against the wall and staying flat out for his qualifying run, I mean, I'd say that car could take a little bit more of a beating. What do you think?
Hopefully built a little more sturdy than an Indy car. The vet is still running, but now Lindsay's right on top of him. What is Wilson going to do back here? Actually, are they catching Mo Islam? Did Islam have a problem?
I was about to say, I thought that was a lapped car at first, but no, it is Mo Islam. I'm going to take a look back. He has damage on the front of his car. I'm going to go back and see what exactly has happened, but he is very, very slow.
Well, to steal a line from the poster for the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, who will survive and what will be left of them? I can't believe how quickly this track is just capturing cars left and right. It looks like in a straight line, even if it does have damage. Islam doing a little better, but he's not too good through the corners as Darling catches up. Traffic didn't help Mo at all. He's not going to defend. He'll come back to the racing line. Darling can't quite attack into Murray's corner. Cy, did you figure out what happened? Oh, sorry. Paul Darling going to get overtaken as Lindsay's finally got a shot, gets that portion of the inside of the Corvette, and he gets the job done.
Well, to be honest, Joe, I'm a little bit confused because other than just him having a small off through the chase, he doesn't seem to have hit the wall or hit another car or anything. I think he's just backing off a little bit. Maybe he's noticing that he's in a good spot championship-wise and he doesn't need to push as hard.
Wow. And that shows you just how much Darling was suffering. He was right in the slipstream and still couldn't overtake Paul Lindsay. Now's his chance to try and run away. I hope maybe we have a scheduled stop as Olivier Turcotte has come in. I do see that Pies was in at one stage as well. Yeah, this looks scheduled. Olivier is in and out. So is Lindsay able to put himself out of arm's reach from Darling here? He's got up to 0.6 of a second right now. Ooh, brave on the binders for how many hits he's taken. Darling is gathering it back up as they woe the cars up into the dipper, now down into Forest Elbow. And wow, interestingly enough, Darling does look quicker through the twisty bits, but he's slower down the straights. Now, I have to wonder, Cy, if you're in one of those prototypes, as they start to catch up to the GTs for a second time, do you pull in as soon as you see that traffic coming and base your strategy, your pit strategy around that?
Absolutely, Joe, but this is one of those calls that you definitely want an engineer or somebody on the pit box with a bigger picture view of the race to give you an idea of when to pit, because if you pit just by seeing cars ahead of you, you could come out in even worse traffic. So that's the gamble you have to take, and you have to, as we see Paul Darling run wide there, look at that car. He's having to save it every single lap, but as we were saying, it's one of those choices you have to make, and sometimes it's better to just stay out longer because that gives you a lighter car at the end of the race.
We have another victim. Don't think we'll be able to get a replay on this one, but the 666 of Kevin Santana has bended into Forest's elbow. Actually, hold on a second. I think Williams maybe had to take, Williams had to take evasive action and had another touch with the wall in that incident. It was very minor. That cost him about 2.5 seconds.
He did indeed, Joe. That definitely cost up Williams. Santana, however, back in the pits taking a tow, so that's going to take him effectively out of the lead.
And we've had another
race.
casualty. Mark Kedrowski threw the dipper again.
Wow.
The dipper claims another victim. He's pointed backwards on the track. Look at that, just slow speed spin. Back end gets around him. He's pointing backwards on the track. He has to get it turned around. That is not a place where you want to be stuck.
Yeah, I think, does he eventually, yeah, please take the tow from here, please. Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
I think he tried to hit the traction control cut and missed it, I think. He tried to do the flick spin, but the TC did not let him.
But on the bright side, guys, for the many, many GT-AM drivers we have that have taken unnecessary stops, Eric Gaudreau de Pro is our first driver taking a scheduled stop. That Lamborghini looks pristine. It is just a simple fuel stop for right now.
He's another one that took his first career podium in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. He and Perry, 4 drivers with their first ever podiums last round at Long Beach. And, well, he's in 4th here, and that's after the pit stops. Reese, so yeah, I think when he came in, he was within the podium. This might be back-to-back to kick off his career podiums for Eric.
Maybe we should have expected it, but who would have thought that Long Beach would have been cleaner than Bathurst?
I mean, it's a toss-up on which is more difficult. They've each got their own pitfalls. This is Christopher Sherburne, who got by. Now, this pair here in the prototypes have been glued together pretty much since the beginning of this race. Robert Tinsey, who we've kind of been given guff all season long about how he hasn't taken to the LMP2s, has got himself into 4th and has been fighting and successfully defending from Billy Smith. So let's see if he can get within slipstream range here up the mountain straight. Coming off of, whoa, hell corner. That's not how you do it, as the tail wags on the 901. He caught it, and I don't think he even lost any time out of it. Not going to gain enough, though, by the time they hit Griffin's Bend. And there's a lot of talk over the radio, unfortunately. And when that happens, often it means that there's some tempers flaring and some unfortunate events happening around. Going by one of the VRS satellite cars here. That was... Who was that, actually, from the VRS team? Oh, Paul Darling just had a spin. Yeah, don't need a replay of this, but he spun out of the chase. Ooh, really taking a lot out of that entry chicane. Maximizing that if he can. Finally coming in for repairs. Ryan Wash is up at the front of our GT-AM fields after a string of 5 victories in a row and 7 of the last 8 rounds. We're going to watch on board, seeing what his perspective is like.
Yeah, here he is, Joe. You can see him looking through that corner with the whoa, as that is a spun Joe Stifle in front of him. And that is exactly how Ryan Wash has been able to compose himself this race. Just absolutely put together, not putting a tire wrong. Yet to come into the pits for his first round here, but just absolutely the definition of calm, cool, and composed.
I will say I'm a big fan of the cyberpunk aesthetic he has going on there. The little lights on his VR rig.
I was going to say, we're going to have to start calling him Metal Gear or something. He's got some kind of spy aesthetic going on as he climbs up Mountain Straight. And he is, wow, how far ahead is he of the next car, David Perry?
He's got about 45 seconds, Joe. That's how big of a gap he's got.
And Perry hasn't pitted yet. How has he been able to pull 45 seconds in 35 minutes?
he has just been able to navigate traffic very well as a big part of it. He's been able to minimize where he is coming out on track. We check out Perry right here. That's pretty much your closest battle, by the way, within class. That's David Perry in second and Sean Reese about 2 seconds behind him. That is just how much this GT3 field has really, really separated out.
Don't need to go to it, but we had our first scheduled stop with Wilson. The 323 has already finished his stop. There he is going to return to the track. He is currently last in his class. No, I take that back. He is not. Luke Carbonneau somehow got that car repaired and out and rolling. Oh.
Well, the leaders for the P2s are in. They went about a lap longer than I thought they would, but they are finally in here on lap 20. Now, this is interesting because they've gone about 35 minutes on the fuel here. So that means potentially they're going to have about a 5-minute shorter stop on one of these, on the next stop. Now, who's going to come out of the pits? Potentially one of them could be fuel saving and try to jump the other in the pit stop.
Wonder if Williams, though, is going to have to get some repairs that may cost him a little time in the pit lane. Also worth noting in this, sorry to cut you off, Si, Billy Smith did not pit. He's able to go a lap longer than everybody else.
A very short stop for Jason DeVries, only 23.5 seconds. Williams is still in pit lane, so is Carter. Carter just leaving now. 23-second stop for Jason versus a 30-second stop for Kundinger and a 33-second stop for Williams.
Williams, yeah, Williams I would chalk up to that damage. Kundinger, I'm not sure. DeVries, you mentioned that they will have a slightly shorter stint on one of them. Do you think maybe he's taking that for the middle stint?
Oh, absolutely. I think I bet he thinks getting the track position and getting out in front and away from the draft and away from the pressure that David has been putting on him will definitely help. Now, the question remains is whether they'll be taking tires on one of these stops. I think no. But Bathurst can throw you a curveball here and there, and if one of these guys decides to take tires and make up the 12 or 13 seconds on track, well, I definitely want to see somebody try that strategy.
Billy Smith is currently coming through the chase. Again, our de facto leader now, since he did not pit. I expect him in. There he goes. Okay. So the 901 is going to enter in. That also, I have to feel like, will help him a whole bunch. Being able to save one lap more at a track as long as this is some feat.
Well, he was sitting behind Robert Tinsey for most of the stint, wasn't he? So I think he may have been sitting there saving fuel.
I thought he was trying to fight with him, but yeah, you might be right that he could have just been using it to his advantage. And DeVries retakes the lead now as he crosses the line. Kundinger a distant, I think 10 seconds behind him right now. Where is Smith going to come out? And that'll give us an idea on timing here in a second. Yeah, Kundinger is 13 seconds behind Jason DeVries after that pit stop. Smith finally returning. Remember, he's fighting with Billy Smith. And I think, yeah, he saved enough fuel. Look at that, a lone wolf. Now there is Robert Tinsey. Bob the Blade may be sharp again, but not necessarily in the pit battle yet.
Well, Billy is another one of those takers who took the short stop first, so that's part of the gap that we're seeing. But like you said, Billy went a lap longer, so that means he'll have even less fuel to take on the second stop, which means Tinsey needs to close this gap on pure pace.
Second place in the GT Pro points is in the pits. Kevin Binkley taking his service. Ross Booth continues on. Now we've had a few drivers behind him pit. Paul Lindsay is going to join him as well. Christopher Pies, Olivier Turcotte have both taken service. Bit of a long one for Binkley, 22 seconds. Lindsay is in, hits his marks. Binkley returns in 30, only lost one position out of that. That's how far ahead our GT Pro drivers up at the front had gotten over the rest of the field. Getting close to the halfway mark. Do we have any of our GTMs maybe trying to go for that fabled one-stopper?
I think there's a chance we might, Joe. David Perry right now has also dropped down into the pits. If you remember, Eric Gaudreau-Depot was the one who came down earlier, keeping an eye now as Ryan Wash makes his way around the final corner. Does not look like he is going to be diving into the pits at this minute, and indeed he is not. So we could be in one-stop territory for these GTMs.
Keeping an eye on Ross Booth as he comes by the pit entrance here. If he decides to stay out, nope, he's coming into pit. I was about to say, if he decides to stay out, he could be trying the one-stop strategy, but it looks like he does not have the fuel for it. But this does give him a one-lap fuel advantage over Kevin Binkley here.
Exactly.
And if he takes a shorter stop, because Binkley did go long on that stop, he could jump Binkley in track position.
The game's going on out here. Mo Islam is approaching pit lane. I'm guessing we'll see most of the GT pros come in at this point. No, I'm proven wrong. Islam stays out. We're going to watch as Binkley brings that blue and white Chevy Corvette down to Murray's corner. Booth still taking service. It was 22 seconds for Binkley. Booth up to 19, 20, 21, 22, and he stops. He's about half a second slower. Binkley's coming through, and I think he is by. Yes, Binkley is fully clear.
Oh, and Joe, our second place GTM has had a big problem coming into the pits. Sean Reese had a spin on his way in, cost him a whole bunch of time. We're going to jump back and check out the replay.
This is a lot trickier pit entry than you would think. Let's see what the Lambo does wrong. It's got its own little chicane that needs to be practiced, that's made to slow the cars down, but they're still trying to go as quick as they can through it, and he was too quick.
Yeah, it just took a little bit too much speed there, got those right side tires onto the grass and spun it around. That cost him about 10 or 15 seconds out on track. There you can see him, though. He is getting underway, but this is going to put him well down the order. Looks like he's going to come out in about 5th place. This will promote Eric Gaudreau-Depot into 2nd, but Ryan Wash, your GTM leader, now in the pits.
Couldn't quite make it to the halfway point, so not expecting him to be able to do it on a one-stopper unless he can save a lot more fuel. I'm curious if we've got any other cars that can get there, because we've only got 2.5 minutes to go. Let's see if Mo Islam is going to pit this time. Impressive what he's been able to do in a GT Pro car. They usually don't have the length that the GTMs do, and have to pit a little bit earlier, and he was maybe one more lap shy.
Honestly, if anybody was able to pull off the one-stop this race, I would have them come into tech inspection afterwards to check the fuel capacity, because honestly, that is not something that should be doable in these cars.
Chris Sherburne is actually looking close to doing it. He's up to 3rd now. This is Binkley that we're looking at in the 75.
Yeah, that yellow Ferrari there, almost looking like he's going to get gobbled up by a pair of GTEs in the back of him. Wouldn't be surprised if this comes down. Now, what's going to be important for these guys here, though, is where they fall. Ooh, that's a big off.
That's Shimbo Pfeiffer. He's a few laps down, so he's just and he's going to keep going. Yeah, I noticed that Sherburne looked a little slow over the hill, and I think he's trying for it. Wow.
Yeah,
he makes it work. That's impressive. But the amount of time he's losing doing it might turn out to not be worth it.
We'll have to
Young
see.
Park has missed the pit entry. Young Park has missed the pit entry.
He's able to back it up. I think he won't get disqualified. Yeah, he's able to get in. But it's costing him so much time.
Comes in way too hot. Just slides right through the gravel trap, almost back onto track. Do you think he's going to pick up an unsafe re-entry or an unsafe pit entry there, Joe?
I actually think he might. The 25 is a good shot of having a very long stop, and he's only just now getting to his pit stall. It took him so long to get it pointed the right way. Now let's watch Sherburne. Can we ride on board to see what it sounds like from inside this Ferrari?
Joe, he's keeping that thing in fourth gear pretty much all the way up through the hill. There he finally drops it down to third and into second. Very late revs coming down. Not exactly tickling the top of that rev limiter if you can help it. Yeah, you can see a little bit of short shifting there with those rev dots. So I definitely think he is trying to coax this the best he can. His one problem, though, is that I didn't have anybody really coming down Mountain Straight to help him out. He's going to have a couple of GTEs passing him here. He may be able to tuck up behind and get some draft from them.
Doesn't move over behind Mueller, and he's had his teammate Jimbo Pfeiffer behind him. Almost wonder, I'm surprised that Pfeiffer isn't running in front of him, like you said, giving him a slipstream. But I kind of wonder maybe if Pfeiffer's waiting behind him to see if he runs out of fuel to give him a push that he needs to get to his pit stall. I mean, that would be, I think, technically legal in this league.
I'm not sure if there's a rule against it, but here Sherburne finally coming in, clock ticking down just under 44 minutes. So this is going to be close for him, but if he can do this again, he's got it, depending on where he is when your leader Jason DeVries takes the checkered flag. That's going to be absolutely crucial.
It's honestly what I was thinking too, is that he could find himself a little bit too clever, and if it goes an extra lap, then he probably won't be able to make it. Hopping on board now with Jason DeVries. Ever since the last pit stop, he has lost about a second to Kundinger, but you could probably chalk that up to the traffic at times causing that to fluctuate. The real telltale will be once we get to that second stop.
Well, the difference in pit stops is about 7 seconds, and he's 11 seconds, almost 12 seconds ahead of Carter Kundinger, so there's something to his pace that's not just the pit stop.
Yeah, I am not surprised about that. Jason has been quick. Again, he's had just as many wins as Williams. Getting a little bit held up here, trying to go past Young Park. A lot more chatter between drivers, this time between Smith and Tinsey. Something about some of the traffic that they've been dealing with. So how many do we have left out here, to be honest? I think we are down to 25 cars running. No, 26, because Pfeiffer has returned to the track, just trying to claim whatever points he can for his team's championship. Otherwise, we've lost Robertson, Green, Atterbury, Cancian, Haley, Slavonic, Santana, and Darling.
Yeah, the mountain's certainly taking its toll here, and you're seeing a lot more restraint out of all of these drivers. I think they are very keenly aware of just how many people have been taken out.
Taking a glance at Williams now, and apologies to Carter Kundinger. I know we haven't been giving him a whole lot of time. That's him actually just in front of Williams, but of course, David and Jason are the ones that are involved in the championship fight. Carter, though, I'm sure he'll love this if he can get himself a second place, because that will certainly shoot him far ahead of Josh Wolf, who is only going to see 4 points added to his tally after today's event. Out of Murray's Corner, Williams keeping the threat up on the 0-2.
And I can guarantee you Jason is Carter's biggest cheerleader right now, because Carter is keeping Jason's championship title hopes alive right now by splitting the two.
That's a good point. If Williams finishes in third, That'll be an even better day. I don't think he's going to finish in third at this rate, though. Sends it in deep into Griffin's Bend, and Kundinger has to give best to the 01, who is back into second place.
I'm disappointed, Carter. I wanted you to defend.
Well, now we get to see, okay, is Williams able to try and close down that gap to Jason? Because we expect he probably got a little bit of repairs done on that prototype.
Joe, we've had a wipeout from our leader in the GT-AMs. Ryan Wash got a little bit loose. I think Billy Smith got into the back of him coming up around the cutting.
Let's take a look at it. Here's Billy Smith. No, he wasn't.
Oh, no.
That Ferrari did it all on its own.
Apologies to Billy Smith there. The camera angle I was looking at, it was a little bit closer. Little bit of right rear damage to that Ferrari. I'm going to keep an eye on Ryan Wash's lap times to see if anything falls there. He still has a gap, mind you, of about 35 seconds back to Eric Gaudreau-Dupont.
Yeah, it is still massive between himself and second place. So it's a good thing he did pull away as much as he did. Oh, what happened to Carter back there?
Looking at the replay, this is through the chase. He's in David's draft, coming down the straight here. And it looks like he just outbrakes himself. Maybe he wasn't used to being in the draft and that extra speed caught him out.
It certainly looks like it. And Ryan Wash was just on the radio asking for one of the prototypes coming through to if he could tell him what kind of damage is on the back of his car. Just trying to get that little edge to know what is going on. There's definitely some there. I don't think that's regulation Ferrari.
It's not regulation Ferrari, but it looks like there's very minimal rear wing damage, maybe just a little bit of crimping to driver's left there. Yeah, you can see the frustration from Wash, though. That is definitely some loss in straight line speed, I think, out of him. A very, very frustrated driver there behind that VR headset.
Let's hope we don't see another unexpected failure from the Ferrari this weekend. People who know what I'm talking about will know.
So back up the mountain to the scene of the accident. This time he keeps it pointed the right way. And let's see, the last time through for Gaudreau-Dupont was a 2:06.6. Of course, Wash's is going to be slower, 2:09. So honestly, Orion only lost about 3 seconds. Here is Eric in that Lamborghini. Started this race in 5th position, up 3 spots to another podium. Oh, Lee Peterson was just off in Griffin's. Looks like he's able to get going, but he was in the barriers when I saw him. Not sure how he managed to do that.
Not entirely sure, Joe, but we continue to watch Eric Gaudreau-Dupont here, just trying to pull in a little bit the best he can on Ryan Wash. Going to be interesting to see what happens. I got to imagine that's going to be a pretty big repair if Wash comes into the pits, and some of that may be slightly mandatory. So this could get interesting when we get into those final pit stops. Keeping an eye, I was seeing some good numbers out of him, but Kundinger looks like he's in the pits.
Yeah, Carter finally down for his second stop, and an early one, so that looked like a short stint for Carter this time. He is gonna try and see if a little bit of alternate strategy can get him ahead of David Williams, maybe help him with whatever damage he may have gotten going off track through the chase last time through.
Well, this could be an interesting call. He could have done that traffic call you were talking about, Joe, where he saw a wall of lapped cars coming up, and he decided, screw it, I'm going to come into the pits, and maybe have David go through them and lose some time instead of me. There he goes, rolling off of pit lane. A 47 seconds stop there, which is rather long for Carter, which makes me a little bit worried that he had some damage that we didn't notice. Potentially some of that floor damage we were talking about earlier in the race.
Yeah, I think maybe clattering over those curbs may have done something. Now, who have we jumped over to here? Looks like Luke Carbonell just lapping Christopher Pies now. That's Ryan Wash. Yeah.
He was being awful careful there, couldn't you tell? He was basically just pulling over to the side and letting them through, not fighting them at all.
I mean, he has the ability to do that at this stage. He's not really being challenged too badly by the car behind, so he can afford to give away a few seconds here and there just to make sure he gets to the finish.
Indeed, he can, Joe. And comparing lap times on that last time out, Ryan Wash able to get back underway.
Sorry, Paul Lindsay in his Porsche, the 70, has hit the wall in the dipper. Twice he's hit the wall, actually. Here's the replay. He's very lucky that Turcotte and Wilson were not closer to the back of him. Here's where it happens.
He is all out of shape even before the dipper. Oh, wow. Big hit. I'm surprised the Porsche could keep going.
You saw it twitch a little bit as he tried to accelerate away. I'm expecting he'll be into pit from
big
here.
Wreck.
Oh,
I just saw two cars.
And that's Booth. That's Booth and Tinsey. That's one of the VRS cars that is suddenly, even though he's in the championship hunt, having big problems.
Oh, and that Kevin Binkley was involved too.
So that was Tinsey, who looks like he was part of the start of it. You said Binkley, and you're right, yeah. So, oh my goodness.
Binkley and Joe Stifel, they had an incident coming up. Oh no, and then the track was blocked there and nowhere Ross could go.
So this literally had a domino effect as it went down, rippling amongst the cars. Our leader potentially with damage, our second place driver with damage. Here's what started it. Didn't expect him to break that early, maybe? Oh, and he tried to come back through, and unfortunately, with that narrow gap, Tinsey as well wanted to get in there. He had to tow eventually, but not before Ross Booth T-boned him.
And Joe, a little bit of a development as well in the GTAM field. Ryan Wash going a little bit out of cycle here, getting his last pit stop and getting some repairs on the back of that car. So Eric Gaudreau-Drapeau is the leader of the GTAM category for the first time. We watch here as Ryan Wash makes his way around.
Let's give Eric some love being at the front of this field. Could be a fleeting feeling for him, depending on what happens with Wash from here on out. That pit stop about 49 seconds for Ryan.
And just as a side note, Robert Tinsey is in the pits to get that damage fixed. I'm not entirely sure if he has the, well, actually no, with 32 minutes left, this will be his last pit stop. He doesn't need to take it off.
Now, looking at the last pit stop times, if the last one was the long one for most drivers, which I would think it is considering we're now 31 minutes in, Wash had to get a lot of repairs, and he was maybe about 20 to 30 seconds longer than normal. So Eric might actually really genuinely inherit the lead here.
I don't know about that, Joe. He's able to hold it here for a while, but he stopped all the way back on lap 15. So he's going to have to go a little bit longer here unless he can pull out a massive advantage. And it still looks like that Ryan Wash is able to pull him in a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a good point too. If Wash has it repaired well enough that he's got the pace he had before, he could get that back down. But like I was saying, that was about the distance that he had to Eric. So once Eric pits, it's going to be tight. It could depend on the traffic. It could depend on pace.
It could indeed. It's going to be a battle that we're going to have to keep our eyes on for sure. And right now, you can rest assured that Eric Jojopo is absolutely white-knuckling that Lamborghini up on its way through the hill, just trying to eke out every second that he can.
Over McPhillamy Park, Eric has been looking good today. You heard it mentioned during his pit stop. That car is clean, and that's really honestly the goal, I think, for a lot of drivers here today. More to see the checkered flag with a clean car, less so to simply be quick. That's the prototype of Billy Smith going by. Billy actually up into a podium position himself because of all the problems. Carter Kundinger now looking to try and challenge Mark Wilson. Carter has already taken his second stop. Well, that was a quick one. This Carter is easily passed. So he is on a different strategy from Wilson, so that's why that maybe was a little bit easier pass than we expected. Mark probably not holding him up all that much, knowing he's not in a fight. So what has happened to first and second in the GT Pros? Has their pace dropped off since that incident? Let's see, 2 flat 7. That looks pretty regular for Binkley. And Booth, a 2 flat 7 as well. Okay. So maybe the drama was a little overblown. Maybe they got away with it.
And Joe, our drama in GTM has also subsided. Eric Jojopo choosing to pop into the pits on this last lap, giving Ryan Walsh the lead back.
Indeed, you're correct. He is ahead. Perry gets into second, but he still needs to take a second stop. Jojopo, where is he going to come out? Looks like he'll come out in third. Luke Carbonneau taking his second stop. Actually, yes, this is the second stop for Luke. All right. Only 8 of our prototypes left running. Jason DeVries with his second stop.
Well, it's expected he came in before David Williams here. Now the question is, how much longer can David Williams go, and how much less fuel can David take? The gap in pit stop is about 7 seconds, and David is about 14 seconds back on track, so I don't know if he's going to be able to jump him, but nothing is granted here in terms of this race. It's Bathurst for certain. Anything can happen.
Yeah, he could catch a lot of bad traffic. He could have his own incident. You just don't know. Smith gonna sneak into second before he takes his final stop of the evening. You see the 89. Is he taking tires, actually? It looks like he's up on the jacks. No, he's not. Sorry, it was a trick of the shadow. So no tires. Oh, we just had an incident. Sean Reese hits hard in the S's, heading down into the dipper. Is he going to be able to get it turned around? We're going to take a look at how the incident played.
And remember, Sean had that problem coming into pit entry. There you see, just gets offline there. Car spins a little bit from him. Hard into the barriers. Looking ahead, he does a little bit of a move around, trying to get the car back and forward. And it looks like just as of now, he is able to get going back down the hill. That car obviously not going to be handling as well as he would hope, but able to push forward.
Is lucky that he spun where he did, where there was still some room to try and maneuver the car, get that K-turn done. But you can see the missing hood on that Lambo shows it's not in a good state. He still needs his second stop so he can get some of the work done. Depends on how it sits after such a heavy smash into the barrier.
Yeah, there he comes down. That's Billy Smith coming around him right now. You can see just how early Reese is getting onto the brakes. They're trying to be very, very calm, not wanting any sudden movements into the car. Looks like that is Billy Smith actually diving into the pits ahead of him, as does Sean Reese.
Okay, Smith ready to make himself good to go to the end. But Williams kept going, so David has enough fuel for at least one more, he thinks. DeVries should be able to take back second place. We're on board with him now. And indeed, easily past Billy Smith. Now, where is Kundinger? Oh, Kundinger's way back there. So he is definitely not going to catch up to Billy. In fact, I'd say that Smith has got a pretty solid third place as long as he doesn't find himself getting in any trouble. That car you see also parked with him is Robert Tinsey, who's been in the pits taking repairs for about 7 minutes. We're not sure if he'll be able to get going for the end. I was wrong before. There's 7 drivers still running. Carpino, the last of them. Tinsey, if he gets back on the track, will be the final remaining one. Wonder what Sherburne's been like out there. But before we look at him, we're going to head over to Jason and that number 89. So he's got a big gap up to Williams, but again, oh, and he's also blinking now. Well, that will, normally that is a concern that we talk about in terms of racing someone within your own class, but the narrow confines here, Cy, I feel like that could pose some serious risks if he starts to make some close moves.
Absolutely, but it's usually not the blinker who takes the brunt of those accidents. It's the victim of the blinker, I would say. So, I mean, he's more of a threat to the cars around him than he's a threat to himself with the blinking, to be honest. And having said that, David has stayed out for another lap, so, and we have about 23 minutes left on the clock here. So if David could stay out maybe 1 or 2 more laps, he might cover off Jason, but it's going to be very, very close. And that's if he has the extra fuel.
So for reference, last time he pitted on lap 20, it appears. So either actually 19 or 20. I think it might have been lap 19. He is on lap 16 of his stint, so he's still got a few more he could theoretically go, depending on if his fuel mileage is the same. Comes down out of the Forest's elbow. 1 car up the way is actually our 3rd place driver in the GT AMS, Eric Gaudreau-Drapeau, that he's catching at a rate of knots. But Eric should be promoted into 2nd pretty soon. They're waiting on David Perry to finally take his service.
Indeed they are, Joe, and the real battle here in the GT AMS is between Perry and Chris Sherburne. Now remember, Chris Sherburne was the one that took the very, very long stop. This is David Perry running in 2nd right now. It's gonna be a little bit tough, I think, for Sherburne to try to catch him, but depending on how this stop for Perry goes, what we anticipate his last stop being, we could be in for a little bit of a shootout for the final step on the podium.
Well, that'll be a wild one, especially if Chris can limp it home on only a single pit stop. I think Mark Wilson in for his 2nd. Yeah, looks like the 323 is taking service. So we watch a few more cars go by. That Lambo there. Also blinking quite a bit. The 02. Excuse me, the 595 rather. That's 2nd position on his car. Ryan Wash putting a clinic on as he has done numerous times in the latter half of the season. It's weird to think that the first 4 rounds for him were, I think, 2 4th places, a 2nd, and a no-show since he couldn't be there for Spa. And since then has been no lower than 2nd, and that only happened once. He turned this thing around in a mighty way, and if he shows up in AM next year, I think there's going to be some cries for foul.
You very, very hit the nose on the head there, Joe. He has just been absolutely stellar in the 2nd half of this season. Absolutely untouchable.
and David is in for his stop a little bit earlier than we expected, maybe one lap earlier. But he is in, and look at him, he's bouncing across the curbs, getting into the pit entry. He knows he's tight on his delta to Jason DeVries here. So we'll have to see how close it is when he comes out of the pits. Now, Jason's last pit stop was a 24-second, and I'm guessing David is going to be around 17, maybe 16 seconds. So it's going to be close here.
Watching DeVries, he's actually already out of the chase. Williams just hitting his pit stall. So how long is this one going to be? DeVries stationary for 24 seconds. Last time, Williams still taking service.
Oh, I feared this may be bad news for David Williams. He's rolling out of the box, but there goes Jason past the pit exit. And I think he's gone and clear. Look at that, a gap of 5 seconds on the pit exit.
It's closer than it was before, but not close enough for Williams' liking, I'm sure. DeVries had the measure of him today, and they've been swapping those wins a little bit back and forth up at the front of those prototypes.
Well, for us spectators, though, it does mean this championship is wide open going into the final round. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Jason has been off the track, and I think David may have picked up an incident or two from that wall tap. So Jason is going to pick up the extra point for a 0x race. Keeping an eye. Let's take a look at Kevin Binkley here, our leader in the GTEs, or the GTLMs rather. He was part of that incident that involved Ross Booth and Robert Tinsley earlier in the race, but he seems to have taken almost very little to no damage because of it. The gap to Ross Booth behind him is 9 seconds, so I think that put pay to any hope of a GTLM battle there as we wind down the minutes here towards the end of the race. 18 minutes left in this event. Pretty quiet on the GTLM front. What about the GTMs there, DJ?
In those GTLMs, in the GTAMs, we are still waiting for David Perry to come in. We follow on board with our leader, as he is and ever will be going to be going on here. This is Ryan Wash making his way up the hill, continuing to drive this great race. There he is on board right now.
I wonder how easy he's taking it now that he knows he's well ahead of the car behind him. I think the gap is about 16 seconds. Is that right, DJ?
Yeah, it's about 16 seconds, but remember, we're still waiting on Perry to make that second stop. So in reality, the gap back is about 18 seconds to Eric Gaudreau-Drapeau. And he is backed off. He's about 3 seconds slower than his fastest lap time. So I think Wash is very much holding back here, Cy.
Now, there's two sides of that. If you do hold back, and we've seen this before, it can catch the faster cars off guard, essentially, if you're going much slower than you usually are, or much slower than the rest of your class. So Ryan has to do a bit of a balancing act here, basically going slow enough that he eliminates any chance of him losing control and hitting the wall, but fast enough that he doesn't catch any of the faster classes off guard and sort of run to the back of him, like we saw happen with Kevin Binkley.
You're completely right, Cy. We got to check up, though. I believe we've got a leader coming on through.
Looks like Leif Peterson is in the pits in that 39. So this will be it for him. In fact, I think he's the last one that needs to take service, and then he's on his way. News for fans of Bob the Blade, he is back out, so back up to 8 cars.
Unfortunately, I'd say he's behind the majority of the GTM and GT Pro field, so he's not going to make up any more positions this race unless we have another few, unless Bathurst claims a few more victims here.
And it'd have to be pretty soon. He's many laps behind. Yeah, 5 laps behind the leaders. 2 minutes a lap. He's got until about 10 minutes to go, and then after that, he might as well park it because he's not going to get anything else. This is Jason DeVries. Now, as much as we talked about him being able to beat Williams on the pit stops, Williams has clawed much of that back in. It is down to 2.7 seconds.
Now that's been fluctuating with the traffic here, but I dare say David has been navigating it better than Jason as of right now. I would say Jason is being a little bit more conservative, being a little bit more careful with his moves, as he knows that his championship hangs in the balance. But David has a little bit more breathing room there. I think he's going hell for leather here, trying to catch Jason and sort of put the seal on his championship, so to speak. And look at that. We see Jason going side by side with the GTM car through the dipper and down and towards Forest Elbow. And look at that. David has a clear run coming down Conrad. And the gap is down to a second. Look at that. Right there. That's exactly what traffic can do. Cost Jason about a second and a half, and David lost nothing.
Wow. So Jason DeVries is under pressure now.
Oh no, and look at that. David Williams had to check up behind. Oh, and he's been hit off. And
that was Jimbo Pfeiffer in the double aught. That's one of our GT pros. Now, Williams has plenty of gap back to Smith. Oh, as behind them, if we stay with this replay after the chase, this caught out a couple other LMP2s.
Oh, and Jimbo was trying to be too nice there. He gave the racing line to David Williams, but David was not expecting it and almost ran to the back of him. And keeping with the replay here, look at that. I think that's Mark Wilson. That's Mark Wilson who gets caught. Who gets caught off guard here, and just I think is that Luke Carbonell? I can't quite tell.
No, that is Peterson. That was Leif Peterson.
That was Leif Peterson. Look at that.
The 39, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that was Peterson. So that was for position.
That's extremely unfortunate because now David Williams is 7.5 seconds back.
Unfortunate for Williams, but certainly a boon of good luck for Jason DeVries, who has 13 more minutes left to go. Despite that heavy thwack, the Peterson's really hustling around the track. So this is Wash and Young Park actually fighting for position here, but that's not in the same class. That's a GT Pro caught up behind a GT Am.
Yeah, and I think Young may just be waiting a little bit here to maybe take him on the straightaway. Those GT Pros having just a hair more straight line speed than their GT Am counterparts. Young doing a good job to just hold back almost down the hill now.
Very considerate drive from Young. He knows he has nothing to gain from harassing Ryan here, and Ryan knows to not hold up Young. So doing a little bit of gentlemanly driving here as Wash lifts a little bit early and lets Park through the chase.
Yeah, he got on the radio and just let him know he's going to let him through. We've got a GT Am battle starting to form, and this is Perry who, well, this is going to be interesting if Perry tries to fight this, DJ, because he hasn't stopped yet.
Right, it's a bit of an out-of-sequence battle, but Joe, I have to be a little bit biased. This is the closest battling we've seen out of the GTMs for most of the day. Perry does go a little bit defensive, putting that car in the middle of the track, holding up Eric Gaudreau-Depot behind him, and there they go, sliding out to the outside, watching, and there it is. Perry comes into the pits. Now, this is good. This is what we've been keeping an eye on. It is now between him and Sherburne. Will Chris be able to make this work on a one stop, or will David Perry's two stop be able to jump him ahead?
I don't think Sherburne's going to get there in time. He's still coming through Forest Elbow right now, and I would think Perry is going to have a pretty short stop. He's taking his fuel. Sherburne, I got curious about what his pace has been looking like. It's actually very consistent. So Chris Sherburne has been planning this one from the start and hasn't really had to check himself up all that much harder. His laps have been right within the 210, 208, 209 range.
And Joe, you weren't lying. There's Chris Sherburne, David Perry already on the way. That was a mega quick stop. Only about 12 seconds stationary in the box. That is one of the fastest, if not the fastest GTM stop we've seen all day.
The good news for Sherburne is that, Mark Kudrowski is still behind him by actually half a lap. So it might be off the podium, but Sherburne has gotten himself a 4th if he can bring it home. Oh, and Binkley's in. Binkley's in for his second stop.
Now, I've been keeping an eye on the lead gap between Jason DeVries and David Williams here. And David has been driving like a man possessed. He's been consistently a second or a second and a half faster than Jason these past couple laps after his little run-in with the GT car. And I think, you know, we were saying how much of a tragedy it was that we didn't get to see the lead battle. We might still be able to see the lead battle here if this pace difference keeps up.
Well,
I don't know if Jason's even realized that he's catching back up. I think Jason may have taken his foot off the gas there for a little bit, relaxing after he saw David Williams drop back. But now he's gonna have to notice sooner or later, and maybe.
But Williams has caught Sherburne, and Sherburne is at a horrible place down through the dipper. Now he's able to go through. That bought DeVries a little bit of time.
Taking a look at that, yeah, you're right. He had nowhere to go. Now you could sneak a nose up on the right side here. That's exactly what it does when Sherburne lifts, but that is still costs David about a second there.
Interesting thing about Sherburne too is as he was being lapped by DeVries, he did brush the wall slightly. I think he got away with it though, because it was very light up against it. So Williams back up to 4 seconds behind Jason DeVries, now down to 9 minutes left to go.
9 minutes and the gap is down to 4 seconds, so it's still theoretically doable. Needs to get him at about a half second a minute here. So for a 2-minute lap, that's a second a lap. So that's a big ask, but it is. But if anybody's going to do it, David's the one who can do it.
I think it'll mostly come down to the traffic, which we already saw can give and take here. And Booth is in. All right, the battle between Booth and Binkley. Who will come out on top? This could determine who has the advantage into the final round. Again, only 1 point separating them.
Now remember, Booth went a lap longer on the first stint and went 2 laps longer on the second stint, so he has 2 laps less fuel that he needs to put in to make it to the end here. And I think the gap, look at that, only an 8-second stop. And he is rolling already.
But Binkley is easily by. He is gone. There you can see him. Booth returns. What is the gap here as it finally starts to catch up for us? 9 seconds. So Binkley is going to overtake him in the points at this rate.
It's only going to be by a very small amount. I think the difference between first and second is 2 points, not counting any bonuses. And I don't think either of them are going to have a bonus this round.
Yeah, that is correct. They won't get the pole bonus. And yeah, they both had some contacts, so they're not going to get the 0x bonus. Who's got the fastest lap, though?
Actually, I believe it might be Binkley.
Binkley. Ooh, so he's going to...
I'll give him a 2-point advantage going into the final race.
Mm-hmm. And that could be, I mean, the way this is going today, that could be everything in 2 weeks' time. Oh, wow. Oh, and speaking of fastest laps, how about David Williams taking that one?
Gap is down to 2.5. And we're coming down to just under 7 minutes to go. So he's ahead of schedule, so to speak.
Williams does not want to give up any points to Jason DeVries today. He could just cruise this one home and then take a good second place finish again in 2 weeks' time and claim the championship, but he's making a fight out of this.
Take a look up the track here from our leaders in P2, and he has a couple of GT cars that he can catch through the dipper here. Over Turcotte, directly ahead of him, coming through Skyline now, and I think he's going to catch him coming through the downhill of the mountain, and this is going to cost him a lot of time.
We're on board with him right now. Turcotte, he's trying to size him up. He's trying to get it so he can do the run, and he's got it just in time to sneak through. But it'll cost him a lot more time than it's going to cost Williams, who doesn't even have to touch Turcotte through the mountain section. And it's down to 1.2. Yeah.
Things are definitely amping up now.
I did not expect it to become this close in the end. Out through the chase as they now accelerate towards Murray's corner. 1 second between them across the line. And now down to 3 laps to go. What are we at here? 5 minutes 20.
We are running lap 46 right now, and I'm guessing between 48 and 49 laps to go here, Joe. But that might be wrong, however.
I was going to say, this might be a little bit tight, which is not what a lot of these drivers are going to want if they get an extra lap. They're doing 149s right now, are the prototypes. 150s, really, most laps. Oh, he is within range now. It's under 1 second. Who's up next up the road? Mo Islam and Christopher Pies in front of them. And I think, at worst, Islam's going to be caught by Forrest Elbow. At best, DeVries will only get him after the mountain.
Well, basically, any traffic that Jason catches is going to be advantage to David, because David can follow Jason right through just about any traffic that he catches at this distance behind him. And he's going to have to draft from Jason all the way down Conrad now.
They really will. They are going to get up to Mo Islam pretty soon here. And this will really start to tell the tale of how many laps we're going to have as we approach the start-finish line. Oh my goodness, it is an absolute traffic jam of cars in front of them. He's got to pick his side carefully. He's going to go to the left. It did still slow him up. And David Williams starts to take a little bit of a look, and they are able to get through without drama past all 3 of the GT cars.
Is it bad that I wanted David to take a 3 wide there? I saw him. I saw the thought. I could see him deciding to get up in his head. I could see him looking at the gap.
Look at this, though. I think he might have a little bit of a slipstream. He's trying to pull it off of any of the cars. Looking through the windscreen, he closes, and it's not there. Who have they got? They've got nobody in front of them, I think, at this stage. Young Park's the next one up, and he's way up ahead.
Now this is where David needs to be careful and manage the dirty air so that he has a run down Conrad, but not so close that he gets checked up or potentially hit the back of Jason if anything happens. Just needs to manage the distance now.
They're so caught up in the battle, I wasn't paying attention to what the clock was as they crossed the line. Oh my goodness. This is going to be a shootout here. Oh no! And Williams bangs into the wall!
This is what I was talking about. He needed to manage it, and he just overcooked it. Oh, no. Can we get a replay of that? On board with David. Oh, it looks like he bounces off the curb and catches the inside wall. He must be kicking himself in the cockpit right now.
We've seen half a dozen drivers clip that curb today and throw themselves off through the S's. So DeVries is now much more clear. It's about 3 seconds, and it looks like Williams... He's even congratulated him on the radio already. Okay, now we have a chance to watch and see what the time is going to be. It is 1 lap to go. 1 lap to go at the line for Jason DeVries. For Williams, he's just got to keep limping the car because he's got about 28 seconds back to Smith.
I think that's too big of a gap for Smith to make up on 1 lap, especially since David is still rolling here. So that is our battle in P2's basically done, but that does mean the battle for the overall championship is still wide open going into Road Atlanta.
And I'll tell you what, Sherburne is going to get his 4th place because no matter if he's caught or not by Jason DeVries, DeVries has passed Kudrowski. So that is the position for our lone 1-stopper. He made it work. Hats off to that man.
He did indeed a very, very impressive run, Joe. And as you said, he has been absolutely steady, just hovering between 108.5s and 109.5s this entire race. He knew he wanted to do this from the beginning, and he's getting it done.
Looks like
I'd also like
Wash.
to know he did that in the Ferrari, which is not the car known for being the most fuel efficient. Imagine what he could do in the BMW.
Well, right now, I think Ryan Wash is, yeah, he just got lapped by De Vries, so he's going to have one less lap to do. Already a champion and extending that winning streak to 6 in a row. This man, though, let's see, he was the winner last round, so he's going to double up this time and inch closer to Jason De Vries, but he's not going to get the bonus points. In fact, I don't think he's going to get any of the bonus points except maybe a 0x. We'll find out once the race is over and try and calculate that for you. Win number 5 on the season for Jason De Vries, and it happens at Bathurst to boost his championship hopes. Wash just behind him. The current champion in GTM continues to dominate.
And dominate is the word, Joe. He crosses the line with a gap of about 25 seconds.
Binkley, one of the last ones to come across himself. And Williams wound up 8 seconds behind Smith, for those curious. Or 8 seconds behind De Vries, 24 ahead of Smith. Kevin Binkley came into this 1 point behind Ross Booth. Last race, neither of them were on the podium. Was not a good day for them at Long Beach. This time, a mixed bag. They both got into trouble, but not as much as some of the other leaders. Well, poor Paul Darling had to DNF today as he took the pole, snatched that bonus point away from both of them. That's got to be frustrating. But Kevin Binkley, who by our estimations will be ahead by 2 points after this, to the line, a 13-second gap, and Kevin Binkley wins at Bathurst. That's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Bathurst. In the Hall of the Mountain King, you better respect the track. Some didn't, and they paid the price as attrition just took them left and right, but not Jason DeVries, who had another victory, his 5th of the season. He doesn't have the points lead, but he's closed it in on second place. David Williams here today after David had a late race incident that lost him valuable time and speed. Billy Smith with a commendable 3rd place to get himself a podium was ahead of our last driver on the lead lap in the prototypes, Carter Kundinger, in 4th. Lee Peterson managed a top 5, and to tell you how few drivers we had survive today, only 6 of our prototypes were ahead of all of the GT pros, and that is Mark Wilson.
Well, in the GT pros, we have Kevin Binkley, our new championship leader, exiting Bathurst, according to our calculations at least. And following him in 2nd, we have Ross Booth, followed by Christopher Pye. Mo Islam rounds out, Mo Islam is your 4th place finisher. And 5th place is Oliver Turcotte, rounding out your top 5. Interspersed a little bit is the stragglers in the LMP2 field, but skipping them, we have Gary Mueller in 6th and Young Park in 7th. On to you, DJ.
Taking the win yet again in that GTM category was Ryan Wash, followed by Eric Joe and David Perry rounds out your podium. Chris Sherburne, ever to make a one-stop strategy work, was able to come home in 4th, followed by Mark Kudrowski. Joe Stifle behind him, able to finish up there as well. And there you can see the rest of our finishers, all of which suffered some damage over the course of the run here today.
And our winner was Jason DeVries, who took at least 1 bonus point impressively with a 0x out there, but also took the win. And that is going to close you in on David Williams by a few points into the final round. Congratulations, Jason. Was that pretty much the plan today? Go for broke to try and get as many points as you can to give yourself a shot? Jason, do you have a copy? I have a little bit of a bug with Jason. We'll give him a chance to see if he can get this fixed real quick. Jason, do you have a copy? Looks like we don't have a copy from our winner here today. So let's go to David Williams instead, who should still lead the championship. David, it looked like it just wasn't on today. You lost time a couple of points throughout this race, first through the pit stops and then later with an incident. What happened in both cases?
Well, hey, Joe, thanks for having me on, guys. Wow, what a crazy race. Yeah, I guess Jason was trying to split up the race differently. He looked like he took his end of stint fuel for the middle stint. So, that gave him a gap, I guess. I guess he was hoping that gap would help work things out for him in the end, which usually a lot of times it does in traffic. So, yeah, it was interesting. That incident I had with that GT car, that was a bit frustrating, but, I mean, that's racing.
Certainly. Well, and then the incident at the very end, it was impressive enough that you ran him down, closing that gap and were able to challenge. Did you just get thrown off by the aero wake, or was that you over driving? What do you chalk that up to?
It's a problem I've been having with this car quite often, missing downshifts. So I missed the downshift at the top of the hill to go from 6th to 5th. And at that point, I've got a certain amount of brake in, and I'm expecting the engine braking to kick in, and it didn't kick in. And at that point, I knew I was about to run Jason over, so I just tried to avoid him. And then what's odd is I took damage in my first stint for some reason. I don't know where, I don't know how, but it was slowing me down in that first stint. I kept yelling at myself the whole stint, like, why am I so slow? Why am I so slow?
Well, it looks like it's still going to be a 2-point difference, even though you both took bonus points. You took the pole, he took a 0x race today. So it'll come down to, I believe, 13 points in the final round. Knowing that, do you points race when we arrive at Road Atlanta?
No. I want to beat Jason. Let's be honest. Jason's had my number this whole season, so I'm kind of tired of getting beat. I need to beat him straight up, and I thought today was a day, and luck just wasn't on my side.
All right, a racer through and through. Congratulations on the win, David. Who would you like, or the second place, David? Who would you like to thank for the podium?
Thanks to Satellite. Thanks to Cy up there, always helping us figure out how to make these cars work. And thanks to Jason, Paul, and all of our guys on our team. And thanks to GSRC. I love watching Alex Go-Arcast. Can't wait to see this one. It looked exciting.
Looks like I think we got things sorted out with Jason. So Cy has caught up with him.
Oh, welcome to the booth here, Jason. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I just want to give Joe the silent treatment to talk to you instead.
You're not the first.
Well, it's worked. You definitely had us. Well, you definitely had us nervous there for the end of the race. We saw David catching you at quite a rate of knots towards the end of the race. What happened there? Were your tires finally giving up? There was definitely some talk about taking tires towards the end of the race there, but it looks like nobody did. What were your thoughts at the end?
I just didn't have any pace in the car to begin with. I think David picked up some damage the first stint, but I couldn't make lap time in the car. I set the car up to handle pretty good, and I played the track position game, but I was really a second place car at best, and just got lucky with the way things shook out at the end.
Speaking of getting lucky, a lot of talk about this track has been about how you manage traffic and how traffic manages you to a certain extent. What were your thoughts about some of the class interactions this race?
This was really different than other prototypes. There are a few passing areas that I wasn't used to that you can create with the acceleration here, like going into the cutting and then approaching Forest Elbow. It took me a good 5, 6, 7 laps once we hit traffic to figure out where I could pass, and thankfully some of the guys gave me some room when I made a bad decision and tried passing when I shouldn't have. But it was really different than anything. I've not done LMP1 here, but it's so much different than HPD as far as how you set traffic up.
Interesting to hear. Well, coming into the final round, you have a 13-point difference, or a 13-point gap to David to close out the season. What are your thoughts on getting that championship?
Can't do it. I can get it down to -5, but with the way the drops are, I can get 23, but he's got a 14 drop, so I can only take 9 out of the lead. So, let's just go for broke, go for the win, and make sure we lock up this team championship. But hats off to David on locking this thing up. It was a really good battle. I've had the pleasure on every single time that I have a championship battle here. We've just had really good competition to the end. So hats off to him. I had a blast, but just came a little bit short this season.
Our P2 winner there, Jason DeVries.
That takes us to our winner in the GT Pro class, and I believe DJ has caught up with Kevin Binkley.
I have indeed, Kevin. A great run there, very close all the way through. Talk me through what can only be called a 90 minutes of absolute chaos out there.
You gotta love Bathurst. It's either gonna be a great race or end in tears, and almost had a little bit of both, but glad to finally be back in competitive mode for sure.
For sure, indeed. And it looked super competitive out there, I have to say. Now, obviously, this is going to close you down a little bit in the championship. Going to be very, very tight coming into this last round at Road Atlanta. How do you think that's going to go between you and your rival this entire season, Ross Booth?
Yeah, I can't seem to get away from him. It's going to be really close. I figured around Watkins Glen time frame that it's really going to come down to bonus points, and I still believe that. I was worried the last couple races. I just didn't have the car or the mentality or something. I just wasn't qualifying well, and I wasn't racing well. And glad to finally have a good competitive car again. So now it comes down to the final race. Ross and I are neck and neck. I think I got fastest lap bonus points. I missed out on the pole. And then I had that incident, which I got to apologize to Joe for running the back of him and messing up Robert Tinsley's race, and also giving Ross some damage. But overall, I mean, it's a win. I needed that, and it's going to be really close for Atlanta.
It certainly is. And, obviously I know Road Atlanta always throws up a bunch of roadblocks in terms of traffic, but This, I think, is a very unique track in terms of that pretty much for half of the lap, you are very boxed in terms of traffic. How do you manage that as sort of the meat in the sandwich of these classes in terms of getting around the GT3s as well as trying to let the LMP2s by? How do you approach it coming up and down the hill?
A lot of it's luck. A lot of looking on the relative too to find out who you're coming up on. And if you can make the pass before you start up the hill, because especially with the GT3s and GTEs, from the exit of one corner to the entry of the other, you really don't have the grunt to get by them. So once you start up the hill and you're behind them, you're stuck there unless you make a bold move, which can really turn into disaster. As far as LMP1 or the LMP2s, there were a couple good spots where if they get a run on you, you could let them by, and it was pretty understood. But when all three classes are on the hill, it's really just you trust who's around you, and everybody, for the most part, made really good decisions.
Well, I know we loved watching it, and Kevin, congratulations again on this win. A win at Bathurst is something truly impressive. Anybody you would like to thank?
First and foremost, everybody in the league. I mean, it's Bathurst is hard enough in a single class. When you add multi-class into it, you really got to trust the people you race around. So thanks to everybody in the league. Again, as always, my dad for watching these races and cheering me on, and you guys for putting on a really great broadcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That was Kevin Binkley, your winner in the GT Pro class. And now Joe Peak has caught up with your winner in the GT AMs and reigning champion, Ryan Wash.
Ryan, it was another dominant performance. That makes it, I think, 6 wins in a row. The one thing that I would like to know is how did you get a full 45-second gap in the first half hour of this race? That we didn't even notice it until we looked at one point.
Well, I kept the car clean. That's for a start, and then I lost it all when I didn't keep the car clean. So yeah, that happens. But yeah, I mean, it was really. I mean, I was barring that one lap, that was probably the closest race I've ever had to a perfect race. I was just in the groove, nothing could get me out, and then eventually, Prototype caught me in an awkward spot. I tried to get out of his way early, so he didn't have to stay behind me through the mountain. And just caught me offline and backed it into a wall, which I wasn't worried about until I realized that I was driving a Ferrari today, which has the engine in the back. I'm used to it being up front, so I got concerned about 2 laps after the accident when I realized that.
Well, did you notice any change either in power or in the way that the car was handling?
I was about 2 seconds slower after that incident. I think I was running 203s, low 204s before the incident, and then I was running high 205s and 206s afterwards. I was actually kind of fortunate that Kevin, Ryan, and Joey had unfortunate days because I went into the pits a little early to try and fix a little bit of damage because my back end was hanging out a little bit more than I liked. So I went in there to get some damage fixed and then forgot to uncheck my tires. So I haven't had one 90-minute race this season where I haven't accidentally, or where I haven't not changed my tires like I planned on. So maybe the next one, Road Atlanta, last try.
Well, let's talk a bit about your setup here that we've been watching, though. Kind of got some cyberpunk, sci-fi sort of spy games things going on here. So what's the deal with the lights on your VR set?
Oh yeah, well I actually just changed this yesterday. I went out and my girlfriend hates me for it, but I went out and bought some oops, sorry, this guy's talking. Now you're breaking up. Crew chief, shut up.
He's just trying to make sure you get the proper cool down.
There we go. Yeah, so I went out and spent some of my money and got this like nice little LED strip and then changed my entire setup. So I'm actually facing a completely different direction. Yeah, I got this cool, neat thing just for some ambiance.
Well, we're really digging it. We definitely made comments on it during the race. Congratulations on another win. Is there anybody you'd like to shout out to?
Yeah, I definitely want to thank you guys. I actually want to ask you guys a question. I've been up here enough. I could ask you guys an interview question.
Okay.
How was your broadcast? Did you have a good walk there?
We had a very good broadcast. We were very busy, to say the least. I'm sure that's expected, considering 3 classes at Bathurst. But we enjoy watching you guys race every week.
Yeah, I mean, I was exhausted. I can't imagine how tired you guys are.
It gets tiring sometimes, but it's all for the love of it. Well, thanks for talking to us, Ryan. Thanks for the question. That was our winner in the GT Am field. We're going to talk to our second in the GT Pros, and I believe Cy has caught up with Ross Booth.
Welcome to the booth, Ross. And it was an unfortunate second place. I know you had the pace to challenge Binkley potentially, but talk us through that event. A lot of people fell out early, especially our pole sitter, Paul Darling.
Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with second. I feel like my pit strategy, I was going to be either ahead of Binkley or right on his tail after the last pit stop, but it looks like he spun the car in front that I hit, so maybe something's going on there. No, I'm kidding, but it was a pretty entertaining race. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, what did you think of the class interactions between the prototypes and the GTMs? We saw a lot of, I wouldn't call it a helpful nudge, but a lot of nudging that was going on in the race there.
Yeah, this was pretty hectic at the top. The quicker GT3 cars are actually really hard to get around at the top of the mountain, so you're just stuck behind them, and with chasing Kevin up through the mountain, it's like he'd get caught up one lap, I'd get caught up one lap, and it just keep going back and forth there, and it was still a lot of fun.
Yeah, the push and pull of traffic is definitely not, well, it's certainly familiar to us who run endurance a lot. But coming to the championship, you were 1 point ahead of Binkley here, but now that he's taken the win, I think he goes 1 or 2 points ahead of you coming into the final race of the season. What are your thoughts on Road Atlanta?
I'm really good at Road Atlanta, and I'm going to put in a ton of work, so I hope he does the same, and we can battle it there, and may the best vet win, I guess. I don't know.
That has been a bit of a trend that the vets have been towards the front of the pack this season. Well, I mean, Road Atlanta is known for a hill, and while it's not as bad as Bathurst in terms of multi-class, it's its own beast in terms of that interaction. So we'll be looking forward to the season finale, another 90-minute race. Do you have anyone to thank before we send you on out here?
Shout out to everyone that keeps coming each and every race into Autobahn. It's awesome to see. I think we had 36 people out tonight, and that's awesome to see. It's a long season, and with people coming out, it makes the races more fun with more cars on track. So shout out to everyone that was here tonight, and hopefully we get even a bigger field for Road Atlanta. Well,
thank you for that, Ross. Well, next we have DJ, and he's caught up with Eric Gadrodra Pro here.
Well, Eric, we've said it before, we'll say it again. It was a chaotic race out there, but you seem to get your way through it relatively well, taking a pretty standard fair pit stop strategy and even managed to lead for a little bit in there. But how was the twisty confines of Bathurst for you?
It's a very challenging track, and if someone were to tell me earlier in the season that I would be finishing second at both Long Beach and Bathurst, I wouldn't have believed them. But great result overall. I qualified where I thought I would be, fifth, and knew it was going to be all about survival, and happy to bring the car home safe.
So at what point in the race did you start to sort of make that cognitive recognition that, oh, I'm on for a podium here? Oh my goodness. Did you have that sort of moment, or was it just sort of slow and steady, gradual gain?
I knew the strategy would leave me with a little less fuel than these other guys who took the full fuel to start and then filled it up on the first pit stop. So I noticed Kevin joined very late in practice and didn't turn in any lap and joined in for qualifying, basically. So I expected him to have a bit more difficulties, and he did. Ryan, I avoided his crash by a millimeter, and once those two guys were out, then mathematically I'm still going for third, and then seeing Joey also get involved. It's something where I noticed where I was, but I knew up until that checkered flag flew that it wasn't safe, it wasn't done. I still had to bring the car home and glad I did.
That's very fair. Well, speaking of bringing the car home, another tricky track, another 90-minute next time out. We head to Road Atlanta. Obviously, not exactly the walls quite as nearby, but I know the S's tend to catch a few people out. How do you think it'll all play out there down in Georgia?
It'll be interesting. Long Beach is a track that, while it was still a tech track, I had experience with on the B car, the stock cars, and Road Atlanta I do as well. So it'll be a track I'll be more accustomed to. It'll be easier for me to grab pace, which I don't think the car tonight had quite the pace that the guys up front did. Ryan was out of the league as usual. Congratulations on him for the win and again for the championship. But yeah, it'll be an interesting 2 weeks to prepare the car for Road Atlanta. It's going to be a similar setup, very up and down circuit, a lot of gradients. So it's going to be an interesting prep and trying to make the best result to send it home for the final of the season.
Well, we'll be watching and rooting for sure. Anybody you would like to thank, though, for tonight's excellent second place?
Well, thanks, guys. First of all, you guys for the very interesting and dynamic broadcast. I'm sure we're going to be having a lot of fun rewatching that fight and prototypes. I got a glimpse of it throughout the race, but it looked very exciting. Team SFTV, TMC, Luke and Olivia have been a blast to race with this season. Always a lot of fun with these guys. Everything that's on the car, GP Weiser's Penard simulation, the rig that I'm sitting on right now for the past 4 years now. And thanks also for Autobahn to putting this up.
Well, thank you, Eric. That was Eric, your second place finisher in GTM. Joe?
That's going to close out our interviews for this evening. So we want to give a big thank you to the Autobahn Group for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also thank you to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to Jula Lawn, who provides our wonderful music. Her Bandcamp is there if you want to check out some of her work. And thanks to the team today, Sean, Sy, DJ, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. There's also our social media, which you can find the outlets listed on the screen. And if you'd like to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment, because in 2 weeks' time, we're going to Road Atlanta Monday, June 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern for the season finale. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.